great rabbi, Shlomo Abitbol, Zecher Tzadik Libracha, great rabbi of his time, a rabbi I believe we've spoken about on various occasions before here inside this series, and he was actually a great rabbi from Morocco. Now we've spoken about many great rabbis that actually came from Morocco respectively already inside this series. I've been very much privileged to speak about, and it will mark his Hilula this week here. We are at the moment in the middle of Cheshvan, the month of Cheshvan, or towards more the earlier parts of the month. So he was born in 1740. There's varying opinions when he passed. According to one opinion, it was in 1815. Another opinion says 1818. It does over there. So very, very interesting enough. So in fact, we're not too sure exactly the date of his passing, but the Hayomi website, which we use as a resource, they have mentioned that his name is on this specific date, because on the 8th of Cheshvan, because I believe that Yom Bo Nichtava Haskama Chachmei Fes Litvasat Sefer Minchat HaOmer. He had the famous book called Minchat HaOmer, and that was a date when the great rabbis of Fez area in Morocco would actually, I think, give the Haskama, the approval, into the book in of itself. So he was a great Posek Halacha. He was a pייטן. He was a poet. He was a rabbi of an area called Czfro. This was much at the at that point in time. He'd have various different important positions. Now let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. So his father was Rabbi Meir Abitbol, and he was born, I believe, in the year 1740 in Czfro in Morocco. And while he was young, he would learn under the auspices of his father. With his father, he happened to have been a Talmid, a student of another great rabbi from the city of Fez. His name was Rav Shmuel Elbaz. Now, Rav Shmuel Elbaz was, I think, the father of the famous rabbinic dynasty of the Abu Chatzera family, especially in the 1700s. He himself, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Rav Shmuel Elbaz, was a Talmid of Rabbi Chaim Vital. So you can see the chain of greatness they actually came from. Now, afterwards, Rav Shlomo Abitbol will continue progressing his learning, and he'll be being ordained by the rabbinate through another great rabbi, Rabbi Shaul Yeshua Abitbol, who was another famous Dayan, a chief rabbi at Czfro in Morocco, and a greatness himself. Rabbi Shaul Yeshua Abitbol, I believe, passed away in the year 1809. He was born in 1739, so you can see the chain of great rabbis. So he was Rav Rashi, was a chief rabbi of Czfro, respectively, and really getting imbued in greatness. Rav Shaul Yeshua Abitbol happens to have been the author of the Torah book called the Avnei Shayish, and I think he would also learn under Rabbi Eliyahu Tzarfati from Fez, another great rabbi of his time. I think he'll progress. He was ordained as rabbi. Then afterwards, he'll be appointed a Dayan, a judge in the Bet Din of Czfro, a very prominent position. And I think at that point in time, a prominent rabbi of that part of this Bet Din was Rabbi Shaul Yeshua, another rabbi I believe we've spoken about beforehand. There's very different articles, especially on the period of the great rabbis that there were of yesterday in Morocco. And more can be said within regards to him. I think we've mentioned him on several occasions here in this series, really, about Rabbi Shlomo Abitbol. So I recommend everyone. We've got the stories of Tzadikim section here on this series, where you can actually see him more. So I'll just state more, which it says over about him in Hebrew. Letzad limodav hatoranim asak gam b'mischar. So also, while he was really delving in the Kodesh realm in himself, he was also working in trade. But tamach b'yatomim v'almanot v'emshech hatmana ligzabar tzedakah v'gabei kaspei tzedakah. He was a treasurer of the charity funds and charity institutions, and was also a shamash who was in charge, I think, of the money of tzedakah. Avo anim talmidei chachamim be'et Czfro or ba'arhim nosefet. So he would be responsible for giving charity to the different poor people and the Torah scholars of the area of Czfro, respectively, and various other places. I think that will be close to there. B'yamav ayu be'et shnei tenorim merkaziyim le'afiyat lechem sheshemu et klal hatzibur. Remember, in those days there weren't ovens and stuff like that. There was a public place where they would bake the various different products. So for the community itself, lo kitzarim arabim matzridim et banot hayudim hamigiot le'afot et pitam ולפיכך פעל כדי להקים תנור נוסף בתוך המלאך בצפרו. So what's going on over here, friends, over here? Just so we're really now getting the realms of what it was like in Czfro during the late 1700s himself. I think in the city they were baking breads. It was used by the public, these ovens were, and there were two. But apparently at that point in time, there was many, I think, of the Moroccans were, the non-Jewish people were actually really trying to harass and agitate the Jewish, the Benots, Tzadikot, the Tzidkaniot, the Jewish girls over there. And he would actually, because of that, he would actually spend a lot of time and efforts in building another oven in of itself at that point in time to make sure that they won't be in that specific position. So he would, so that would actually obviously very much take a lot of time at that stage in time, and just making sure that the Jewish community will have their needs and there won't be any anti-Semitism problems. We see there was anti-Semitism all throughout Jewish history. Now it's actually interesting. I think I think it was around the year 1790, I think it was now. At that stage in time, it would be about 50 years of age, it's reported over. B'shanat 1790, Kitmana Molea Yazdi Leshlit Mechuz Fez. So it was a man of the name Mola Yazdi ben Mohammad. He would, I think, become now the leader, let's just say, of this area of Fez, respectively. Hachrib et Batei Knesset v'Giresh et Yehudi ha'it mimena. So unfortunately, more anti-Semitism would arise at that point in time. He would, I think, move the people away from the synagogues and would really cause a lot of destruction against the Jewish community and bring them away. Now, this would actually bring turmoil, let's just say, in the community in of itself. So he would actually help with moving the people to Tsafro, I think from Fez. And come with the year 1792, he'd be about 52 years of age at that point in time. Shalach igeret liudi, the dash b'midbar Sahara. בחיזק אותם על אומץ רוחם להילחם בגויים שבאו להרגם. האיגרת בכתב יד נמצאה באוסף הרב יעקב משה טולידאנה. So what actually went on over here? I think he encouraged, at that point in time, there was an issue. He would have to send a letter to the Jewish community of Dadash at that point in time. And there were many people, I think, that were coming to actually cause a problem for the Jewish community. I think people that wanted to destroy them. And a letter was found, I think, later on in the writings, a collection of famous Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Toledano, a rabbi who's spoken about on various occasions over here. Inside this series, I recommend you to watch over that video we recorded about him over there. So that's a very interesting point of source. Now, he passed away, according to Wikipedia, in the year 1818. It's happened to be. Now, he would have several children, sons, and one of the famous ones is Rabbi Meir Abitbol, another great rabbi we've spoken about before. He was a Posek, he was a Dayan in Czfro. Let's say something about him. He actually lived between 1782 to 1854. He did. So he was a head of Jewish court, also in Czfro. He was also a poet and a great rabbi of his time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was I think he was born, I think, in the year 1782, and was mentioned about Rabbi Shlomo Abitbol, who we're speaking about today. So that's very, very interesting. What's interesting, the father of Rabbi Shlomo was Rabbi Maimon Abitbol, so that would make Rabbi Meir Abitbol's grandfather Rabbi Maimon. So very interesting. So Rabbi Meir Abitbol's wife would get married to Rabbanit Donna, I think, from the Elbaz family in 1798, and he would go on to become a great rabbi. He would go on to become his rabbi was Rabbi Yehuda Elbaz, which you have to point out. And I think he was appointed Rav Bet-Din. He was, I think, connected and in connection with many of the great rabbis, Rabbi Meir Abitbol, including Rabbi Yitzchak Ben Walid, Rabbi Yosef Berdugo, and Rabbi Amram Elbaz. We're talking about the great rabbis at that point in time. And the Rabbi Meir Abitbol was also the author, famously, of Minchata Omer, Omer Hatnufa, the Omer Eman, the Etazamir, Shorota Omar, and various different great books also. And we spoke about him on various occasions before. It's actually interesting. I believe Rabbi Meir Abitbol would have great Talmidim and great Rabbonim. I think one of his Talmid was Rabbi Raphael Moshe Elbaz, who we have to point out. Another one, if I'm not mistaken, there was another famous rabbi of that point in time, including, I think, Rabbi Shalom Azulay was a descendant of his, if I'm not mistaken. Rabbi Shalom Azulay was another great rabbi, which we mentioned about on various occasions before. And Rabbi Aaron Apriyat. So I think Rabbi Shalom Mordechai Azulay, what's interesting enough, who was the grandson, that would make him, I think, the great-great-grandson, if I'm not mistaken, of the Rabbi Shlomo Abitbol, who we're speaking about today. He passed away in 1961. I think we recorded a video about him. His Hilula is on the 26th of Shvat, another great rabbi of Tzfro at his point in time. And it's interesting, Rabbi Amram Azulay, I believe, happened to speak his son. He happened to pass away in 1999, the rabbi we spoke about on various occasions before. So you just see how how the chain of great rabbis come up. And I think the Chatan of Rav Azilei, if I'm not mistaken, Rav Shlomo Azilei, will be Rav Yaakov Yosef. He's the son of Rav Ovadia Yosef, great rabbi who's then passed away, I believe, back in the year 2013. But over here, friends, we're speaking about Rabbi Shlomo Abitbol. Happens to be his Marxist Hilul according to Hayumi website. If you're new, first of all, to the channel and you're just watching now, please subscribe to the channel now. He left great works, including Shut Minchata Omer, Rav Shlomo Abitbol. That was a book on... very much great. I think it would come out way after he passed away in the year 1950. Chidushim al Tanakh. There's another great Perush Lagadat Shel Pesach, explanation on the Pesach Passover liturgy. Perushim al Megillot, on the various Megillot there is. Sever Chazionot Laila. This is another great book of his that specific point in time. We're going to explore a few of the highlights from the book in of itself. We're just going to say over just a few more words, backtrack a little bit and just say a few more words about him in of itself. We see that Rabbi Meir Abitbol, who was a great rabbi, his father was also a great rabbi, so really was imbued at Torah at a young age in of itself. And at Tsafro was a place, a center, let's just say area of Torah study in of itself. So he was working in businesses. Many of the people at that stage in time would couple their learning full times with professions, and it's interesting. He was successful, I believe. And I think he was working partly in banking, if I'm not mistaken. And many of the profits he put into properties and in orphans endowments in of itself. And he would help marry orphans with the money he gets, support widows, and really do a lot of chesed with the charity with the money that he actually brought about. So he wasn't just a great rabbi. He was also really dealing with the public needs. He built synagogue, I believe, at the point in time. I think a large library he would actually build also, which many people will, and those ovens, which we mentioned about beforehand. And it's interesting. I think at one stage in time, one of the city's ministers would impose a heavy tax on city Jews. Unfortunately, I think he was actually arrested, and I think he was put into detention. But I think the King of Morocco would actually help him out at that stage in time. I think his name was Mohammed the Third, if I'm not mistaken. You see all the anti-Semitism there was at that point in time, and how it corresponded with the Jewish community of the Dash of the Sahara Desert, and a whole thing went on in Morocco at that point in time, where there was a lot of inner politics. I mean, among the non-Jewish people and the dignitaries that were in all the different places. Let's just say it's actually interesting. You see the great books he published all over his time. We spoke about them already. And according here, the date, as we stated before, of his askama for the book, the recommendation for the Minchata Omer was written on the 8th of Cheshvan. That's why the Hayumi website itself would actually mark that specific date as his Hilul. Let's explore a few of the highlights from the book now over here, friends. One of the teachings he says, I believe, in the book of Minchata Omer, I think this coming from, I think this was actually printed, if I'm not mistaken, in Jerba, if I'm not mistaken. There was a Haddad publishing house also, and this was 1950. He teaches Melamed Shazchut la'amod b'cherem neged oivenu hi ava b'tochenu. Another teaching he states over, I think page number 98. Melamed she'ikar shlemut adam talui berov ashanim shishalim shnotav. This is another teaching over there. Another great teaching he will say teach over. Melamed she'adoresh Torah barabim. This comes from page 78 to 79 from the book. I think it was published, connected very much to the Machon Yismach Lev. This book was a Chidush Beurim book, unlike the previous one we mentioned before. Another one from the Chidushim Beurim, from page number 48, he teaches, how important is everyone should be included within regards to the realms of the Torah cycle itself, including the building of the Mishkan. Now, another teaching, I think that comes from page 45 from the Minchata Omer, dealing with the Choshen Mishpat itself. He teaches, Melamed, Sheminhag shekiblu chachmei ma'avotehem machriya halacha. That's another very important teaching of that point in time. So the Minchata Omer book in of itself is without doubt a very important book of its time. Probably the most famous book of his, you could argue, and much has actually been said within regards to this. So that's very important over here. So it's very important over there. Just sorry about that. That was just a telephone of of my son over there that just went off. And very interesting, friends. We remember from the area of Czafro itself, which we were speaking about, Rabbi Abitbol. You could say over much with regards to that. Sorry, I just over the last minute, I just mentioned some of the books, I think, about Rabbi Meir Abitbol. So I just want to backtrack with regards to his father, Rabbi Shlomo Harav ben Maimon. I think we mentioned that he wrote the Shut Minchat Omer, also the Kedushim al Tanakh, Perush LaGadash Pesach, Perushim al Megillot, and Sefer Chazonot Alayla. It's very, very interesting. You remember he was a great rabbi of his time in the area of Czafro and also Fez. Remember, Czafro had many great rabbis, including really many of the family of the Abitbol really were the main rabbis there, including Rabbi Shaul Yeshua Abitbol, Rabbi Meir Abitbol, Rabbi Yaakov Yisrael Oliel, Rabbi Yehuda Elbaz, Rabbi Amram Elbaz, Rabbi Raphael Moshe Elbaz, Rabbi Chaim Eliyahu Shitrit, Rabbi Abba Elbaz, Rabbi Eliyahu Afriyat, another great rabbi, I think was very much connected also to him. He happened to be a rabbi and a dayan, one of the great rabbis in Morocco of his son. Also Rabbi Yeshua Shimon Chaim Ovadia, another great rabbi over here, and Rabbi David Ovadia. So very, very interesting. These are actually personally know one of the descendants for him. So very, very interesting. Now, friends, we're a community here. We are learning about great rabbis of yesteryear. Now, if you descend from any of the Chachamim, the great Talmudim rabbis, scholars that we happen to be speaking about here inside the series, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information about the great Chachamim that you've got over here. And it's not just we record videos about great rabbis of yesteryear here on this channel. We are doing much more here over here. We are doing tours all over Israel. We tour all over different archaeological places in Israel, and really do encompass all the different parts over here. So we try and include everything and make everything great in of itself. So also, friends, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. We are a community here, and we are exploring about the history of great rabbis of Israel. We're like an online encyclopedia, so we really appreciate anyone that joins over here and joins the community. We are nearing 8,000 subscribers at the moment, which is a phenomenal achievement. I don't think we would have expected that even from the start when we started these videos all over those many years ago. So I really very much recommend everyone to join. I wish you blessings. We're about to go inside Shabbat Parshat Lech Lecha here this week. Prominent Shabbat in of itself. So learn more, make the most of it. Study as much Torah. Go to the synagogue if you can. And amazing over here. So Rabbi Abitbol, another one of the great rabbis of yesteryear from Morocco. And please watch your space. It's in. You go into the Stories of Tzaddikim section of the channel. You will see all these videos that we've actually just compiled just right now. And very much exciting. And hope everyone can join. I'm wishing you blessings from Israel. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom Uvrach. And take well. And please subscribe, everyone. Appreciate it for all the good feedback. Thank you.